Well, hello there, folks. This is Ray Dolan from Mullingar in Mullingar, and we're in the centre of Mullingar. Well, one of the finest hotels. We're in the Park Hotel, and I'm after meeting a great friend who we know many, many years, Father Brian Darcy. How's it going?
Oh, sure, it could hardly be better. You're looking great yourself. So what is this about, anyway? Explain to me what you're doing.
Father, we're going live here at the moment. We're on Facebook, and we're just chatting. Really, we go live on Facebook and we go live on YouTube, but today we're going to chat about what's going on in the world at the moment. I'd like to have a little chat with you because just thinking today, I remember we met many, many years ago. You interviewed Joe for a show. Do you remember that show?
It was the history of the show bands.
That's right.
The history of the show, and it was fantastic because since God Be Good to Joe, I've done that on the BBC a few times. Yeah. Every time I do it, the people just come out in droves looking for them because he was himself. Joe and I got on well, as you know.
That's right, yeah.
Always got on well. We used to tell each other dirty jokes and all sorts of things. And I gave him absolution as he was telling them. So there was no bother about it at that stage. Yeah. And we had a great thing about how he got into the business and about the glamour of it and looking at the Clipper cartons and looking at how they polished their saxophones, their shoes. And I was able to tell him that the Clipper cartons, the very first show band, they couldn't get bright coloured suits.
Right.
As I said, they're dressed like undertakers, like you and me are today, dressed like undertakers in black suits, and that was all they could get for their band business at that stage. So what they got was they got curtain material from a local drapery show, and they made bright blue suits, bright yellow suits, and that's how they do it. They couldn't get material.
But this is going way back.
This is 54 to 55.
But the time that we were chatting, Joe was playing golf and he went out to the golf club.
Yes, that's right.
I remember Joe had I think it was an oil, a jet hat, a sort of a circular one on his head.
That's a different one. I know what that was for. That was for a television program that I did, which was to promote pop music in schools.
Really?
It was, and you know, and Rory Gallagher came on the scene. And Gilbert O'Sullivan did it, Johnny Cash did it, and Joe did it.
Wow.
Yeah, they were all in the same one, and they all did it. And it was an extraordinary title because Rory didn't want to talk, but he said, "Come to the concert, and you can take any music you want."
Go on.
And he gave me the whole whatever concert I wanted to.
Rory Gallagher.
Rory Gallagher, yeah, and great guy, great guy, and Donal, his brother, same. And because it was going, and we called it "Messing with the Kids" because that was Rory's big hit at the time.
That's right, yeah.
Big hit at the time, and it went out on television, and it was in riot programs, and it's sometimes you see little bits of it coming up and reeling back the years. Yeah.
That's exactly where it came up. But I just think of that and going back, and I always remember this. Like I said, this
that
priest
would have been
arrived
1975.
1975. That's
6.
correct, yeah. 1970. That would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I also remember you coming down, and he says, "And who?" And you were chatting to Joe, and
I was over in your house. I was over in
right.
Ben's house, and your mum was there too. God be good for at that time. And I went over, and we got tea in the house that evening, and we went out across to the hotel across from your house.
We went out to the golf club. Do you remember?
We went out to. Oh no, that's right. It was out to the golf club. That's right.
And anyway, but I always remember you saying, "And who's that? Who's the pup?" And I'm going, "Who's the pup?" And I never met
the cub, not the pup.
Was that it?
Who's the cub?
Now the cub meant I don't know what it meant to me at that time.
Boy.
A young boy, but that's what it meant up in the north of Ireland.
Aye.
And where are you from exactly yourself?
I'm in Fermanagh, and young boys were called cubs, young girls are called cutties. C-U-T-I.
Yeah. Oh, we cutty hay.
Yeah, we cutty hay is right. But if you're called a pup, it means you're a little brat.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I would never have done that.
It was a cub.
It was a cub you were called at that stage.
We
had. But Joe, so that's the way. That's the way back in the 70s. The first time I often say this, of course, one of the first times I met Joe and your dad Ben, I was over out to the old Sheeling, and they were getting away from ballrooms, probably early 70s as well, and trying to do an odd concert.
Yeah.
And the old Sheeling was out in the north side of Dublin or Heaney, and it was the place where everybody met, and we were there. And Joe and your father called me in. They had a lovely organ player called Kieran MacDonald. And Joe and they called me in, and your father says to me now, could you ever go to that fella? He's thinking of becoming a priest. He says, could you ever go and tell him to wise up? He says, because it's a lot easier to get a good priest than it is to get a good piano player.
They didn't want to lose him.
It's changed now. It'll be a lot easier to get a good piano player than to get a good priest. And so the two boys wanted me to dissuade Kieran from becoming a priest, but I wouldn't dream of doing it. Yeah. And of course he went on to be a priest and be a very famous priest in England. And he used to do exorcisms and all sorts of things. Kieran.
Wow.
He died not that long ago, but he was a good guy. He wasn't a piano player with the Regional Drifters.
Tell me a story. You were saying that at one stage in Ireland and Dublin, there was a lot of ballrooms.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of ballrooms around Dublin. I used to go around in my Honda 50 to various places. I was just ordained at the time, and I hadn't a car, I was supposed to be on a bicycle, but I broke all the laws and got a Honda 50.
Right.
And went around Dublin for years in a Honda 50. It was a great way of going around it, and I said, until I slipped and went under a bus one day, so that put an end to the Honda 50. But you could go out.
But did you go to all the gigs then that night? So you hop on the Honda 50, go to the next one.
When everybody went to bed in the monastery, I got up in my Honda 50, 11:30 at night.
Right.
And it was in the town in 20 minutes. Yeah. And you had you went into the Bernard Square, and you started with the Irish Club in Conan and then you went round to Mount Carlin in the National Ballroom. Then you went round to whoever was in the Tudor rooms. You came down to Christy Gunn in the Iron, and Michael Nolan, Alan McGoldrick's husband, was managing the Town and Country Club. Now we're still only in Parnell Square.
And you nearly walked them all.
Well, that's what you did. You parked the bike. And then you would cross the burn. You had the Tara Club on the other side of the street. You had where Frank McClune, Robbie Goodwin was. Then you went to Ann Street, where the nicest bar of them all, the Crystal Ballroom, and the famous Kerry footballer Paddy Kennedy was the manager of it. And then you had Liam Ryan in the Olympia with a statue of Our Lady above it, with Father Ryan exactly there. And then you had the television club. It used to be 4Ps. It's now a road actually, beside the Lewis, and you went to there, and that was there. Then you had in Bray, you had two in Bray.
But you wouldn't get them in the same night.
No,
would
you would not. No. You had two in Bray. You had one in Dunleary then, which you would get as well with the top hat, which was a huge big one. And there was a man called Byrne who was the manager of it. He said now, but I went one time. He took no prisoners. You see,
right?
There was a bit of.
Go on ahead.
There was a bit of a row one night, you see, and the next thing I'm standing very quietly in the place, and the next thing he gets the two boys, one back of the neck that way, back of the neck that way, he brings them down, bang, 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 bang. He had them knocked out by the time they reached out of the floor. So the two boys, they were not. I wasn't out after because I thought they were dead. And you had Lugs Brannigan, one of the great guards of all time. He was fantastic. He was a lovely man. But he was employed to break up the Animal Gang.
Right.
And him and I used to have tea in ballrooms every night. He'd have the Black Maria outside. And once you saw Lugs, everybody just disappeared.
Go away.
He put on kid gloves, and when he put on kid gloves, you weren't getting kid glove treatment.
He meant treatment.
He meant treatment.
One question for you. How exactly did you get the love for music, and where did it all come from? Like, fair enough, you ordained as a priest and then you got into music. Where did
it was the other way around actually.
Really?
It was long before. Radio Luxembourg at home. We had a wee country house and we had electricity because we were on the side of the road. No, it didn't mean we were on the side of the road, as that the phrase might mean. We were in a house on the side of the road.
Right.
And we got electricity when everybody else didn't. We got electricity in the early 50s. And we had an electric radio. And the whole country used to come in to hear the matches and up to that they had only wet battery radios which lasted about an hour.
Wow.
Not through. So they all come to our house. But on it I discovered one day a pop music station called Radio Luxembourg, 208 on the dial.
Wow.
208 on the dial. And that's where I got my love of music. And I used to study listening to it. And to this day, I cannot study without listening to music. Most people would say you can't study listening to music. I couldn't study without listening to music.
And you that way, I can't study with the music on.
I could. I like it in the background, playing away. It. And so that's where I got the love. So it became, the top 20 was from 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock on a Sunday night. And of course, they put number one last at 12 o'clock, so you had to stay up even though you were to school on Monday.
Waiting for it
to see what was number one. You couldn't, no self-respecting young fella in County Fermanagh or anywhere else could go into school on a Monday morning and not knowing what was number one on the charts, which meant that you had to stay up until 12 o'clock the night before to get it on a Monday and on a Sunday night. And after that, went to Oma, and in Oma, a lot of the guys that I knew were fellas like Brian Cole, Pat Chesters and so forth, who subsequently became bands.
Wow.
And when I was a student then, I used to go down to meet them. They all met in the Belvedere Hotel, which Tony Cassidy owned.
Where did you do your studying then?
I was at UCD, and I was a student in Mount Argus Monastery.
Now, was that to be a priest or
priest?
You were studying?
Priest.
Yeah.
I was a priest. Yeah. I entered it on the 1st of September 1962. That's when I entered. As a 17-year-old, so you can work it out now.
Very, very good.
Left it all behind me, I thought. And in the meantime, I got out of it and I was sent to UCD, and everybody was talking about the Beatles. I was disgusted. I didn't know what the Beatles were. I thought there was an infestation or something. And then I discovered they were talking about a pop group.
Yeah.
They had come in the year that I was locked up, in 62 to 63, the Beatles had arrived.
Wow.
And we weren't allowed to even open a letter in the place. And so we're locked up completely. But when I go back out, the Beatles are there. And I discovered that the Beatles, I saw an advert for them. The Beatles were in the Adelphi Cinema, the first ever visit to Dublin. I said, I have to go down and see. So I broke out, I got out through a window and went down on my bicycle to Abbey Street. And the place was, I knew it was infested with young people of all description, mainly young women. Yeah. And I got within about 20 yards of the front door of the Adelphi. And the doors open, you could see them. So I did see the Beatles, but I never heard them.
That's right.
It's an incredible thing.
And did you like the Beatles?
I got to love them.
I
still do them. I'd rather have the Stones now. It's funny enough. I'd be a Stones man now.
That's right. Joe was the same.
Is that right? I loved the Beatles stuff, but to be honest with you, it was more concocted than the Stones were. You go to a Stones concert and you hear the sound that the Stones did in the studio. And Croke Park.
And that liveness as well.
Oh, wonderful. But you see, Martin did most of the Beatles, you know, they were brilliant and they were insightful, but he packaged them in a way that made them elite, and very elite. Yeah. But I think there's more heart and soul in Stones.
One more thing, you have a book coming out. Is this your first book, second book, third book?
This is my 18th book.
You've 18 books?
Yes, 18 books that I've written. But the difference of this one is it's going to be called It Has to Be Said. So in other words, it means when the Vatican tried to silence me, they wouldn't let me say it. So I had to call the book It Has to Be Said, and I'm going to say what I want to say anyway. Brilliant. Because I'm near the enemy day, and I'm not going to go to the grave without saying what I want to say. It has to be said to be out in September.
There you are, folks, the legend as it is, Brian Darcy, and we're here in Mullingar. This is Red Odin Live. Thank you very much, Brian.
God bless, Ray. Lovely to hear.